The next chapter, we talk all about how Will is the problem. Will's the problem because he's the megastar and she's over here and she's just swallowed the key, as she would say, to her own gilded cage. Now, I don't know what that metaphor means, except for the fact that she wants to talk a lot about how she had created a world in which she was a celebrity in her own right. Then Will showed up and everybody loved Will, but nobody loved her as much. And of course, she did sort of take a hiatus from things because she'd had a baby and then another baby, and she's over here trying to help the household as they help every single person they ever knew. Now that they're rich and famous, they feel like it's their burden to help everyone they've ever known. And you have to wonder how many times they were manipulated by family members, like, well, now you got some, so now you got to help me type of situation, type of attitude. I'm not saying they can't help people if they don't, help people if you want to, but I wonder how many times they help people out of pure guilt and less out of this sense of really desiring to be a help. I don't know. They might have really enjoyed helping people. Who knows? But she wants to let you know that she felt like Will was supposed to save her from herself. And then when he wasn't able to do that, that was really disappointing. Now, she admits that was a pretty broken way to think, but she doesn't ever come up with a better thing that she should have done. She just does a lot of complaining about the fact that she's trapped in this relationship. And this chapter, entitled Swallowing the Key, goes on and on and on for page upon page upon page and comes to no conclusion. It doesn't even describe very many scenarios in which she is being plowed under by his star. She just keeps speaking in vague terms about how it's hard to be attached to him, and let me give you some background that's really vague and not helpful, and let me set up for some scenarios. Let me just it's generality. By the end of the chapter, I was like, what are you trying to say? Like, what's the problem? But I guess in summation, his star was beginning to dim hers, and that was hard for her. Their perspectives in life were so different that they just constantly kept getting on each other's nerves. For example, now here's one concrete example she gave of their perspectives being different. One time they had gone to an amusement park, and it's been harder and harder and harder for them to move throughout the world because Will is so famous. And when they went to the amusement park with a bunch of their friends, because they can't ever just go as a family, they got to bring everybody they ever knew with them. Some group of people, they see Will and they basically mob the family, like come rushing at them. Well, that really scared Jada. She's 5 feet on a good day. And Will, who's much taller, she says, was able to see that it's not that much of a threat. It's just like a small knot of people coming over and excited and want to get an autograph or shake a hand or whatever. And Jada freaks out, starts swinging her bag, screaming, back the F up, and causes this big scene, which was really embarrassing for Will because Will felt like it was important for him as a celebrity to always maintain really good relationship with his fans, knowing that it's the fans who put him where he is. So he was really embarrassed by her behavior and felt like it was an entirely outrageous reaction to a small incident. So that really bothered him. But they couldn't come to any conclusion about that. However, where things were flipped were she didn't care about the paparazzi. They didn't bother her. She didn't like them to get right up in her face, but them taking her picture in general wasn't offensive to her. Whereas to Will, he found it a huge invasion of his privacy to constantly have to fight photographers. But I feel like a selfish person will never be offended by a photograph because she wants to be photographed. She wants her pretty face to be splashed all over everything. Why would she reject more attention on herself? That's the whole problem, is that Will's getting all the attention and she isn't. So she wants pictures. She wants that to be out there. And what she dislikes was the lack of control. People swarming her, she doesn't like that because she's not going to get anything out of it. And also she can't control what they're doing. But with a photographer, she can tell them, hey, back up just a little bit and I will definitely give you the picture you want. She gets something out of that interaction. Whereas Will, I don't feel like Will is as selfishly driven as she is. In the event of a fan rushing him, he gets to have this interaction with the fan. He gets to give something to the fan. He gets to, fulfill their excitement, But with a photographer just comes and takes something from him and he doesn't get a chance. There seems like he didn't give anything to anybody of his own volition. And it just feels like he's being robbed. But their perspective about it is just completely different. And so they come to a lot of arguments about that. And so it's like those sorts of things where they're constantly seeing the same event vastly differently, and they can't get the other one on board with how they feel. That's kind of the theme of this chapter. She tells about another situation in which she just felt like Will wasn't prioritizing her safety. And she tells about a story in which she says, I don't know, she brings race up a lot. And maybe that's just because it's, I mean, I don't know if she brings it up because she really felt this way, or she felt like it would make the book more tantalizing to constantly talking about the way it feels to be a Black woman. I don't know. But she wanted to talk about the fact that they lived in a neighborhood that was mostly white. And she said that service providers who would come to their house, like pest control or, you know, the cable guy or whatever, often treated her interestingly and maybe a little bit weird, she claims, because she was Black. Like, she says they didn't know how to treat her because she was Black. Anyway, she goes on to tell about how there was this pest control guy who they worked with like numerous times before, and he and she had had a great rapport. So I guess he wasn't one of the racists. But when she told him, hey, our problem's under control, so we probably won't be needing your services anymore, he flew into a rage and busted into the house and was like, you're gonna pay me right now. You know, and she's like, you've always billed us, just bill us again like you usually do. He's like, no, I want cash right now, and like comes into the house. And she says she felt threatened, so she grabbed the top of the blender, the solid glass top of the blender, and she like, you know, raises it above her head, and she's like, you better get the F out of my house right now. And she, you know, he collects his things and leaves. So she calls Will, and Will's like on set, and when he picks up the phone, it's clear he doesn't have time right then to get into a big conversation, but she wants him to hear her heart and like how upset she was that this man would take advantage of the fact that she's like a small woman at home alone and all this. That's how she feels. And that she feels like she was forced to threaten the man with a blender, and she wants Will to be sorry and sad about it for her and be like, babe, I'm really sorry that happened, and like hear her. But he doesn't really have the capacity at that moment to really make a thing of it with her. So he's like, sounds like you handled it, and like he lets her go. She says in retrospect, she didn't explain to him how she really felt in that moment. She says that she told him the story, but she sort of like left out how it really made her feel. And so she's like, so it's really my fault he didn't react the way I needed him to react, but he still should have known. I'm like, first of all, the story's the worst. Boring, boring, boring. But second of all, he was right in the middle of something. Like, you cannot save in your heart the times when you felt like people were unfair to you if there were extenuating circumstances that made them react the way they did. Why didn't you bring it back up when he got home? You know, if you desired a different response, and you knew the reason he didn't give you the response was because he literally could not have that conversation with you because he's on set, maybe don't then save it for your memoir to be like, and then there was this other time when he didn't care about my safety. It's like, girl, you're trolling for trash here. You know, it's like, these are not good examples. And that is a theme throughout the book. These are not good examples. Okay, so that's the chapter about how it's so hard for her because he doesn't care.